August, 1590. The Atlantic air is thick with salt and a lingering, uneasy mist. John White stands at the prow of his ship, his eyes searching the tree line of Roanoke Island. He is home, or so he thinks. As the small boats hit the sand, the silence is unnatural. No smoke from chimneys, no barking dogs, no voices of children playing in the dirt. White calls out for his daughter, Eleanor. He calls for his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in this new wild world. But the only answer is the wind rattling the dry leaves. The settlement is a ghost. The houses haven't been burned by attackers. They've been taken apart, dismantled. And there, on a heavy wooden post at the entrance, a single word is carved in cold, hard capital letters: Croatoan. To understand why they vanished, we must look at the blood already spilled on this soil. 2 years before White's families arrived, Roanoke was a military outpost. These were not settlers. They were soldiers of fortune. During a minor dispute over a stolen silver cup, the English commander Richard Grenville made a fatal mistake. He burned a nearby native village to ash. He executed their leader. When the 115 men, women and children arrived in 1587, they weren't just settlers. They were targets. They inherited a war they didn't start, a war where the shadows in the trees were no longer neighbors, but hunters waiting for the perfect moment. Supplies were low. The local tribes refused to trade. Desperate, the settlers begged John White to sail back to England for help. He didn't want to go. He feared leaving his family in such a fragile state. But history is a cruel master. When White reached London, the Spanish Armada was on the horizon. Every English ship was seized for war. For 3 agonizing years, White sat on the docks looking west. He wrote in his journal, "I am consumed by the thought of Eleanor and the little one, Virginia. Do they have bread, or have they forgotten my face?" He was a prisoner of a global war, while his family was a prisoner of the American wilderness. What happened during those 3 years? The massacre theory is popular, but it lacks one thing: evidence. If 115 people were slaughtered, where are the bones? Where is the ash? Now, look at the Croatoans. They were a powerful tribe on the nearby Hatteras Island. They knew the land. They knew how to survive a drought that was killing the English. If you were a starving mother in Roanoke, would you stay in a dying fort, or would you join the people who had food? White had told them, if you leave, carve your destination on a tree. If you are in danger, add a cross. There was no cross. Only the word, Croatoan. They didn't leave in fear. They walked away to become something else. The mystery has now moved from the legend into the lab. In 2012, a hidden mark was found on a 400-year-old map. Under a paper patch, an X marked a fort 50 miles inland. Modern archaeology is finally finding English pottery and native sites far from the coast. And then, there is the DNA. Geneticists are finding European markers in local families that predate any known later migration. The lost colony was never truly lost. They were absorbed, their English names faded, but their blood survived. Roanoke reminds us that when civilizations fail, humanity finds a way to blend, to adapt, and to endure. For centuries, Roanoke remained nothing more than a ghost story, gathering dust on the shelves of failed history. Until 2012, when, in the dim corridors of the British Museum, an archivist placed John White's 400-year-old original map under a microscope. On the surface of the map was a small, inconspicuous scrap of paper, a patch. Using modern X-rays and infrared scanners to look beneath that patch, technology revealed a symbol that shook the world of archaeology. A tiny fort symbol drawn in blue ink. This wasn't Roanoke. This was a secret settlement located 50 miles inland, now known as Site X. This discovery whispers a new truth. The settlers did not simply vanish. They were following a survival plan John White himself had helped design. They had abandoned the island and retreated deep into the forest to build a secure fortress. But why did John White hide this? Perhaps he was protecting his loved ones from the Spanish spies who were hunting for the English colony. But the most startling evidence didn't come from the dirt. It came from the veins of the living. Today, DNA tests conducted on descendants of the native tribes in the Outer Banks of North Carolina are proving the greatest assimilation story in history. In the early 1700s, explorers noted something extraordinary. Native Americans with gray eyes, fair skin, and the claim that they could speak from books. A tribe that insisted their ancestors were white people who had taught them how to read and write. Modern genetics has found rare markers in these families. European DNA that dates back to the 16th century, long before any known later migration. Could this be the biological fingerprint of Virginia Dare and the other 114 settlers? Perhaps they didn't perish in the wild. Instead, they became the very first threads of the American tapestry, the first to blend cultures and endure against all odds. The story of Roanoke is a warning. It reminds us how fragile even the strongest civilizations can be when faced with the raw power of nature and time. If you visit Roanoke Island today, you will hear only the sound of the wind. But we now know that the silence was not the sound of an ending. It was the sound of a transformation. The lost colony was never truly lost. They live on today in the faces, the eye colors, and the bloodlines of millions of people walking the streets of modern America. History may hide its secrets, but it never truly destroys them. Thank you for watching. If this mystery captivated you, subscribe to our channel and let's continue to illuminate the shadows of the past together. See you in the next video.